Forget about Scorpion versus Johnny Cage and Blanca versus M. Bison. Forget that weak crap. You want to see a real battle between heavyweights? Between gaming legends whose very names strike the fear of God in all who hear them? Well, how about Joe versus Nick? Oh, what's that? Sorry, I couldn't make that out through your cries of terror. Well, whatever you're trying to say, make it fast, because here comes Warren, motherfuckers! So this game has some of the weakest names I've ever seen in a fighting game. I was expecting the boss battle to be a sew-off between Billy and Gertrude. The name of the game might be even worse. This is Deadly Moves, or at least that's what it's called on the Genesis. On the Super Nintendo, it's called Power Moves, and in Japan, Power Athlete. Power Athlete. I can't tell if that's a video game or a sports drink. Now, if you weren't around back in the early 90s, you might not know this, but after the release of Street Fighter II, there were suddenly a million fighting games, all trying to do pretty much the same thing. In terms of its core mechanics, this is about as generic a Street Fighter clone as you're gonna find. The fighting in Deadly Moves is as uninspired as its name department evidently was throughout the entire project, but surprisingly, there is some cool stuff here, not the least of which, David Bowie from Labyrinth. So the first cool thing is that it's kind of set up like Mega Man. I mean, you have to play as Joe, because honestly, who else is there but Joe? But you actually get to choose your opponents and the path you take through them. So if one of them's giving you trouble, you can just choose someone else and go back to them later, which is actually effective because of the other interesting thing about Deadly Moves. After each fight, Joe automatically levels up based on the skills of the guy he just beat. And yes, chances are, it is a guy. There's one woman in this game. And obviously, she's in no way a token female character inspired by an iconic female character from a different fighter. Nope. I'm not trying to be Chun-Li. Funny. I'm not trying to be funny here. But unfortunately, that's about where the cool stuff ends with Deadly Moves. In terms of how the game plays, it's a pretty standard fighter. I guess the one thing that does set it apart from Street Fighter is that there's actually some depth to the playing field. So you have multiple planes to work with. And I mean, I guess that's something. Otherwise, the game's kind of a plane crash. In fact, I think the game's backgrounds are indicative of the entire package. They're usually pretty empty, pretty boring. Not much seems to have gone into it. The game looks awful, sounds even worse. I guess the best thing you can say about it is that it plays okay. It's generic and uninspired, but functionally, it plays okay. Alright, maybe calling it a plane crash is a little extreme. It's not that bad. But it's one of those games that's so average and non-distinct, it's almost worse. It's pretty clearly just a game that was rushed out to make a couple bucks off the Street Fighter craze. So no matter how well the game plays, it's still just a soulless clone, with names like Joe and Warren and Deadly Moves. Deadly Moves. No one dies! How's it Deadly Moves? Thanks to our friend Frank from San Leandro, California for sending it in.